Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for our next session, GitHub Copilot, the Agent Awakens. Build applications with GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. My name's Anna. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenter to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speaker today. Ari, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with all of you folks online. I hope you're enjoying our Microsoft AI Skills Fest and getting to partake in some of our great trainings, as well as the content that we have to offer. I'm going to focus on building applications with our new GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. It was actually just released on April 4th. It is still getting out there to folks, so you may notice it in your VS Code stable mode rolling in there. You can definitely get it in the Insiders Edition as well. And with that, let me talk about myself. I am a senior cloud solutions architect and learning evangelist with the ACE team at GitHub. Some of my hobbies I like to do is I coach lacrosse. I play ultimate frisbee, like to 3D print at Peloton, and I like to fly drones. So pretty active, and also spending time with my kids and supporting them in their sports. With that said, I hope you were able to register for AI Skills Fest and attend the session. And maybe at the end, you'll get some badges and some recognition. We're trying to break a world record here of the most trainings around the globe in different time zones. So it's pretty impressive that we're able to do that. So if you haven't registered, definitely take a moment now to do so. And you'll get to engage with me and peers and online with the moderators as well. So let's get into our agenda of what we want to focus on. I'm going to give an intro to what GitHub Copilot Agent Mode is, the learning objectives we'll achieve in the skills course that I'm going to be walking us through. This is an issue-based self-service, self-learning course that we'll work through together. And we'll also explore the GitHub Copilot Agent Mode and some of the power that has. And then our skill background is we're going to be developing an application, and I'm going to get into that. It's called OctoFit Tracker application. And we kind of have a theme in all of our GitHub skills that I'll kind of talk about when we get into that. And then we'll dive into actually working on the skill live, and we'll see what Agent Mode does. Agent Mode is definitely new and very conversational. It does its best attempt to heal things and move on to rectify any errors that it either introduces or that it finds, and to refactor code. So with that said, it really is the next evolution of AI assisted development. GitHub Copilot, it's an autonomous peer programmer capable of performing multi-step coding tasks at your command. It analyzes your code base. So it's looking through your repository and all your code, while it's also making judgment and the ability to make changes and enhance your code for you. Greetings from San Antonio. Nice. Great to see all the people from around the world on. It analyzes your code base, so it reads relevant files, proposes file edits, and runs terminal commands and tests. And we'll see that live when we go through this. It's going to be editing our files. It's going to be executing commands for us. And we'll probably run into errors along the way where we'll have to see what Agent Mode does. Maybe we'll have to reprompt it or give it some other information. Obviously, in our course here, we'll have a set of prompts that we have, but Agent Mode may deviate from that, and we'll have to get it back on track, or it may recognize that and give us the information we want. And we'll see that as we go through. So Agent Mode iterates over your own code. It recognizes errors. And right now, it was just released, like I said, on April 4th. So there's definitely some load right now that everyone is using it as it's being released. So keep that in mind, that you may see certain errors that come up. Also, we'll be trying to stick with the GPT-4o model, but there will be other models that you can use, like Claude 3.7 or Claude 3.5 as well, as other ones as well that are available. Today, our learning objectives is we'll understand how to develop with VS Code IDE in the GitHub code space. So you'll have an environment that's already set up with everything you need to set up this application. Most importantly, the GitHub extensions for Copilot and Copilot Chat. We'll prompt GitHub Copilot agent mode to create our application for us. We'll also leverage documentation files that are in the repository. And what's really cool about this that I like is a lot of us, when we look at a repository or we see a piece of code that we like that someone else, it's open sourced and we want to take advantage of it, we usually copy that and maybe make our own tweaks or maybe customize it to our own. Here we could actually take a markdown file, which is what I'm going to do here in our workshop for our skills exercise, of having a document that's based on another person's application and having agent mode go through that of how to basically build the structure of our application, fill out the back end, the front end, and so that we have a working application at the end. It will fix errors, it will refactor code, and it will even develop new features as we go. And we'll see this as we go through the workshop. I think it's pretty powerful and a game changer of where we're headed. It's obviously when Copilot first came out in GitHub, a lot of prompting and kind of finding errors or submitting those errors back to Copilot in Copilot Chat or in the ID in the editor itself. But what we've done here in agent mode is have it kind of guide itself and build things for us and just take us along for the ride. I'm sure everyone has heard of vibe coding, and it's very much part of that vibe coding term that's been thrown around a lot recently. So it's definitely part of that movement. So we're going to explore the power of Copilot agent mode. It's an autonomous operation. So Copilot agent mode operates in a more autonomous and dynamic manner to achieve a desired outcome. It determines the relevant context and files to edit autonomously without explicit user specification. So just by prompting, it will turn back some multiple steps for us to run through. So it can perform multi-step coding tasks, such as creating apps from scratch, performing refactoring across multiple files, and writing and running of tests. Tools for task completion. Agent mode uses a set of tools to perform specific tasks like editing files and running terminal commands. These tools can run in parallel. Examples include listing files, reading file contents, running terminal commands, and getting terminal output. Code changes and terminal commands. Copilot suggests both code changes and terminal commands to complete the task. It might compile code, install packages, and run tests. And we'll be doing a lot of that in this workshop. This is a very, I would say, a more intermediate to advanced type of workshop to put on agent mode's shoulders. Hopefully we can guide it to the end result that we want. The cool feature that I really love to call out here is the iteration and self-healing. So we'll probably run into this when we go through the workshop, is that you'll see that it may run into an error, but it will iterate and try to fix that issue over time as it iterates. And it most likely will fix the issue, will get to the right solution. It may ask you subsequent questions, maybe to get a little bit more insight, or maybe to test out certain things to get at the root of that issue. But mostly it will try to iterate over its own terminal commands or code that it's created to come to a desired output of a working code set. So you're still in control though. It is Copilot, so you're in control. You're the captain. It's you stay in control of the changes that are made. You can review. You can accept all of them, accept none of them, accept some of them, and Copilot requests confirmation before running terminal commands. So you're always going to get this feedback of like, do you want me to run this command? And obviously that's at your fingertips to do. I'm sure at some point, maybe down the line, we'll have this automated way of maybe saying, just go and create it for me. But right now you're in control of actually step-by-step of guiding through those tasks. And I think that's pretty important right now. You can also modify proposed terminal commands before running them if you want. Context management, while autonomous, you can still explicitly reference context files with our chat variables like #file, or maybe chat participants like at workspace or at codespace. And you can add files, as we'll do in this workshop as well. So yeah, hashtag code base might be another one that maybe you want to have it look, agent mode look at your entire code base. Maybe you're focused on a specific folder and you just want Copilot agent mode to do that. It's very good at focusing on the context that you're giving it to then make a good judgment based on the learning language model that it's using behind the scenes. You can undo and redo. You can undo last edit, and you can revert changes and edits. You can interrupt requests. So you'll notice as it runs through, it's almost like it's playing and it's doing its thing. You can always pause that or stop that and start over. You can even clear that agent mode chat window and start fresh again if need be. We may have to do that during this agent mode. I'm hoping not, but you never know. Several settings are specific to agent mode, such as the chat agent max requests. So keep in mind that, we have a limit too of how much we can ask agent mode of results. I would say the limitations here is that when I first developed this course, that it was currently under preview in VS Code Insiders edition. And so it might take a bit longer. Obviously, we did release this on April 4th, so it is pretty new. We also may need to, and I'm going to show you in the code space how we can go to that Insiders edition if we need to. I think most of you might have to do that. I am currently in Insiders edition just because that's what I use on my ID on my machine, as well as my code spaces as well. And yeah, I would say agent mode also, one last limitation is that it's not available for working with notebooks in VS Code as of yet. I'm sure this will expand over time though. And let's go to the next slide. So here's some of the background on what we're creating here. A lot of our skill sessions, if you go to skills.github.com, you can see a lot of our new exercises that we have released. We have one on beginning of Copilot, as well as, intro to GitHub. There's several that we're developing. We actually are working on releasing one for MCP, another feature that just got released as well. So shameless plug there for all those great skills that we have. And we try to keep them in this theme of like at a high school, and maybe with different roles like principal, administrator, teacher. And in this case, we're focused on this Mergington High School, where we have a gym teacher, Paul Octo, and Jessica Catt is the actual IT person at the school that's helping guide Paul. And his challenge is that he's trying to keep his students engaged in their exercise and their activity beyond the PE class, the physical education class. And he wants to make it fun and engaging and challenging and make it competitive among students. So the solution is that he came up with that he wants to build this OctoFit tracker app. It's a social fitness tracking application. We're going to build it with agent mode, and we're going to leverage another high school's application repository. So there's a document in our repository, which we'll pull up, that has a lot of the core details on building this application that we're going to want agent mode to go through. And the key features is that we're going to want user profiles and activity logging, team competitions and a leaderboard, personalized workout suggestions, and progress tracking dashboard. So that's a lot to do in the time that we have allotted, but we're going to stand up this application with the basic things. And then obviously with agent mode, you can iterate over it and make changes, whether it's making it look nicer or maybe new functionality. Maybe you want some authentication built into it or some other things. So we'll follow on Paul's journey using GitHub code spaces. We'll leverage agent mode to build our app, and we'll build a similar application with help of GitHub Copilot agent mode. So similar to the app from that other high school that we're going to build. You can scan this in here or go to this link here. I'm going to actually just copy and paste this in the chat for us so that you can just go right to the link. So this is the repository that we are going to use. Let me just bring up my notes. And we'll walk through this. So take your time to go there right now. Thank you for posting that up. And before we get into that, just I'll save this for the end, but once you're complete, maybe you want to scan this and have this ready to go to acknowledge your progress and also get your unique achievement for being part of this Guinness world records that we're trying to achieve by having this training around the globe for AI Skills Fest. I think it's pretty awesome that we've all come together, both Microsoft, GitHub, and all these trainers to put this together. So just a shout out to everyone around that. With that, I'm going to just share my other screen. And let's do that. So everyone should see this, and hopefully this is, let's see, I'm at 125%. So this should seem pretty visible, I hope, to everyone. We're going to walk through, this is just a brief overview of kind of some of the things that I've already talked about in regards to agent mode. And I think with the time, we probably should get right into it. We're at that 15-minute mark of, you've heard enough of me talking and presenting. Let's get into the exercise itself. So we have this copy exercise button here. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click on that and we're going to open that in a new window. And what this is going to do is going to set it up so that we are taking the main repository in my continuous Copilot organization, and I'm going to put this in my GitHub handle. You could also put this under an organization of your choosing if you want. I'll put a little note here too that it's me, the owner, and my name, just so I have it in my description. And I'm going to create repository. And this should just take a moment to come up. You should all be seeing something similar here. You're going to see the exact same layout that we just saw in the main repository, but to know that you're in the right one, you can see I'm using my GitHub handle, so I can tell that I'm in my owner, and this is the repository, and it should have this skills dash in front of it also to recognize that it's a little bit different than the main repository there. This takes some time, but if you do a refresh, we should see that now we kind of got past, there's some warnings here about using action minutes if it's a private repository. Again, about waiting those 20 seconds, or I did a refresh here so that that copy goes gray, and now we're ready to start the exercise. And this is that issue-based driven exercise that I was telling you about, that now we have like a little intro right here in a GitHub issue within our repository already set to go. And we have our first step. You can open up GitHub. So we're going to open up a GitHub code space. One thing I want you to note too, when we get in there, to switch to that insiders version, you're going to hit the gearbox and that should pop up to do that. But I'll walk you through that too when we get in there. And I just wanted to make you guys familiar with some of that, the Copilot chat icon, or the icon to get to the Copilot chat. And then we'll get to the first activity. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and you guys should also do this, is open up this in a new tab. I know we have a lot of tabs. I'm actually going to close this one so it's a little bit cleaner. And I'm going to create my code space. I'll also increase the size once it loads up so that you guys can see a little bit better on the screen. For those familiar with VS Code, this should look very similar. Or identical, I should say. And let me just make that a little bit bigger for us. We'll wait for the code space to come up. It's loading all of our great extensions, including GitHub Copilot and Copilot Chat. As you can see, I have the Copilot Chat window here. The window that I was talking about, if we go to this gearbox, you could say, I don't want to switch to stable version, but you probably, if you're not on Insiders version now, then you'd want to say switch to Insiders version, and that would take you there. So you may need to do that. And the reason why I say that is you may not have access to some of the models, and you would not have access to agent mode possibly. So that's why we want to possibly use the Insiders edition version of VS Code. So keep that in mind. I'm going to just click agent mode, so I'm already there. You could attach context here. So now, well, I'm going to switch back to my window to start working through the different activities in this exercise. There's just some notes here, like I said, about GitHub Copilot. This also is a nice screen just to tell you, to point out what I just showed you about agent mode and selecting that, as well as that you should be Insiders Edition. So this is our first prompt that we're going to feed to agent mode, and it's pretty basic. We just want it to create a branch for us and then publish that branch. So I'm going to paste that in this prompt here, and Copilot's going to come back. It's going to say, okay, I know what you want to do. And do you want me to execute this for it? I'm going to say yes. And that screenshot is in there too, to see exactly the same kind of layout. And I'm going to say, yes, I want you to continue. And what this is going to do is it's automatically going to execute this in our terminal for us. And now we should have a new branch here. As you can see, I'll always click allow too on any of those pop-ups from the code space. That's normal. And I have my branch. I've made no changes. And we also have the graph here to show us that we're on that branch. We also could see that in the terminal as well. I'm going to actually push this back a little bit to get a little bit more real estate there. And now we're pretty good, I think, because we did make that change. We did answer yes. And yes, our issue-based exercise came back and said, yes, you did what we needed you to do. Everything is perfect for that. And now we can proceed to the next step, where we're going to want to create the structure, install Python requirements, and set up the Mongo DB service. It will install it and then start it and verify that it started. So again, we'll walk down to the different activity. Again, I added some screenshots here just so people are aware that they're in agent mode and that they also are going to want to open this file. So that's something else. Let's do that right now. Is I'm going to open up that document I told you about that has all of the other application from Mona High School, where we're going to copy that to use for our application. And I'm also going to load the story. So I'm going to put these files and leave them open. You could also add context, like I said before. You could add the entire code base. I could say maybe just look at the whole docs folder, find test files. So there's also the screenshot where maybe you could give it an image of what you want it to look like. So these are some really cool features that I recommend you exploring with agent mode and playing around with. Really, it's quite remarkable of what you can do with it. And I just think it's going to improve over time. And obviously, as you use more sophisticated models, that will get better and better too. So our first activity is I'm going to copy this, but what it's going to do is it's going to take the story, create the structure based on the story MD file. It's using that tracker, Mona High School tracker, as a reference, and I'm calling that out in my prompt. I'm also have a little kind of like, this is kind of my prompt engineering of not to proceed until we've completed these tasks and make sure that we're not going too far ahead. Agent mode will do that from time to time, and I will show you an example of that because I know it will come up, and we can work through that together. So this is great. I'm going to create the start of my app, just the directory structure here. And we'll see that start to pop up on the left side in our Explorer panel. And obviously you can see the commands running down below. I'm going to set up a virtual environment for Python, so I'm not polluting the code space, and I'm using that virtual environment. We are in this application using a bit of Python and Node.js, and we're using Python Django as a framework. So this is pretty cool, right? We didn't have a list of any requirements to install for this for the application on the back end for the Python Django app. So this not only created the file for us, generated it, but it's also now prompting us to now run that command to install all of the. Let me know if you need further to update. I don't think it ran that. Let me see here, pip install. And we're going to keep this file. And I would have expected that to take longer. So let's ask it to execute installing the requirements. And again, I'm kind of going off script from the prompts, but that's okay. That's what we all do in our coding anyway. That's what the vibe coding is about. There we go. So now it is using that requirements.txt for us to install the application. All of these requirements in different versions. I'm sticking with some older stable versions for the purpose of not running into some issues. Obviously, though, maybe one of the things at the end of this is you use a a more sophisticated model and you do use the bleeding edge components like Django 5.2 or Node.js React and 19.1 or something that's newer. So now we did install that, and we're happy with that. We'll go back to our instructions and see what's next. So the next instruction is to install the MongoDB service on our code space. So I'll copy that, and it's just very simple: install MongoDB service. I'm not giving it the specific command. It is in that document. And actually, I'm going to close this file and keep our document open. It's now I'm going to hit continue, and in our terminal, it's going to install the MongoDB service and all its requirements into our code space for us. So that was successful. Now I have had agent mode, and I'd like to give this as a side note to automatically go ahead and give me the commands to start and verify. And sometimes I just say continue and I don't have to do the next prompt. But in this case, I am going to do the next prompt. Also, that don't proceed with next step is part of it. So we'll do a sudo start the service and a verify that the status that it's up and running. And we're good there. So that completes this step 2 of this exercise. And now what we want to do is commit and push our changes that we just made so then we can keep moving on with our issue base. As you can see too, it's waiting for us to complete this next step, which is pretty cool, that an action's running in the background to do that. So I'm going to come here. I am going to add my requirements.txt file. I'm going to have Copilot give me my commit message, so I don't even have to type it. I'm going to say commit, and I'm going to push that and publish it up to the to github.com where my repository lives. And now I'll wait a little bit, and we should see Mona come back and tell us that we're awesome and that we did everything the right way. Sometimes I refresh. Oh, and it just finished. And now we'll wait for the next step to come through. But you see how you could keep everything in this issue. And what I love about it is, right, it's a record of everything that you've completed. I think it's a really great way for people to learn and keep track of all of the achievements that they've done in one nice issue neat like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to initialize, we're going to create the MongoDB app. We're going to create the database and the structure and all the files that are needed for the Django backend. And we're also going to populate the database at the backend. So just give you an idea of that. Some of their steps are listed here as well. So the first thing is I want to create kind of this framework for my app. I'm going to paste this in. I already have my file open, which is good to use as a reference. I'll also bring up my Explorer back. And this should create our Django backend. What it's also going to do as part of creating this Django backend for the app is it's also going to create and update the config file for Django backend called settings.py. And we'll see that pop up here as well. So it's going to generate us just kind of a generic settings.py with no specifics or information. It will add some things like here of allowing local host because it knows it's running on a local host. That will change as we get through this exercise. So we'll keep that. Now, this is one of the examples I was talking to you about where it wants me to run this server right now, but I'm not ready to do that. I have more work to do. I don't really need to spin this up, which is a generic server. And we also, as you'll see in the documentation and the exercise, is we have a way to run these applications already preset in the code space for us. So that's what we're going to take advantage of, but that's okay. We're going to cancel this, which is perfectly fine to do. And agent mode is fine with us doing that. It will also, obviously, like I said, very conversational, ask us for more if we want to do something else or switch gears or what have you. So now we're going to create the database, the MongoDB, the collection of tables that we want. So I'll copy and paste that prompt. And that was pretty sweet. It basically gave us the MongoDB command to evaluate, to create the different indexes for the leaderboard, for users, workouts, teams. Obviously, it's empty right now. And the other thing that it's going to do, it will ask us to continue. Also, I want to highlight one thing. If you ever get into a situation where you can't see that continue button, just pull this aside and it'll pop out for you. So that's something that I learned in my many iterations of working with agent mode. And then it tells us here, okay, we have all of these activity, leaderboard, teams, users, workouts, and we're all set to go with our database structure, which is fantastic. And at this point, we can come back to our exercise. And now we want to actually build up all of the Django application for our REST API. So we're going to be modifying, creating some of we're going to modify settings.py. We're going to create some models, serializers, views, URLs, update the URLs, also add some core stuff so that our web with our code space works correctly. And so we'll click that. And like I said before, right, if we wanted to pause this, we could stop it. There are other options. I guess they're not available right now, but if it was stopped, you probably would have those available to you. So it's letting us know that it's going to create these files. And these are the required files based on what the prompt that I told them of already. These are the files that we want to create. And it should just take a little bit. It is a little bit slow, I'm sure, depending. Some of the newer models or the more complex models like Claude, I've seen it run even slower. We are sticking with GPT-4o also because of the cost and things like that. You want to keep that in mind. But I think we'll work fine with GPT-4o. So we're creating our files. You'll see things spin. You've noticed too, I've been doing, like when I did the keep in the settings.py and the requirements.txt, I did the keep in that file, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes you may, if it's creating a lot of files and they're all coming up here in your editor, you may want to wait to the end and then wait for the keep to totally keep all of the files that you're interested in. So here I'll actually do the keep here, and that will keep all the files that have been created. So I have a models. I updated my settings. As you can see, it added stuff for our, these are things that were added for our REST framework and the Django to talk to the MongoDB backend, the course headers to avoid any conflicts with our code space where we're going to the URL and any issues there. And then our app itself, the OctoFit Tracker app. We also installed some middleware, just highlighting this. You would see that too if you were on that file directly in what you're doing. It also updated our URLs, Python. It created this admin and a test py as well. And this is our views, which will be changing later, as well as our serializer. So we'll keep our one file open. I closed all those files. Feel free to go back to this main doc. Now we're ready to go to our next step, which is really populating some sample test data in this database. What I did was too, is in this document, if you look through, you'll see I have sample data and the populate.db Python file there. So it should be using that as a reference to build my sample data as well. All right, looks right. So it should create a command for us to populate the DB. I do a refresh, there it is. Commands, now it's working. And here's our populate DB. We should see test data. We're going to do into kind of, I guess, initialize or clean out, make sure the database is ready, the MongoDB database from the Django app. We're going to run this migrate command. That looks good. And now we are going to want to execute and run our sample data. So hopefully that's the next thing that comes up to run there. So here we found an issue with this. We'll see what agent mode does to fix this problem. So now it's going to check the file itself and see what the problems are. I'm going to cancel this because I don't want to install those features. I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to say rerun our populate db pi command. And there. So it had actually fixed the issue in the file, but did not necessarily recognize it, thought it needed more requirements to install, which I already knew that was an issue that might come up, so I canceled that. But I knew it made the edits that were necessary, and that's where we wanted to get to. So if we wanted to, like, I know this is not in the prompt, but if we wanted to go a little bit off topic here, we could say, actually, no, we'll see the data when we get to the REST API. I know I'm conscious of time too. I don't want to spend too much time. So we've completed everything in step 3. We are now ready to commit and push the changes that we've made to our app. So I'll come here and I will do the plus symbol to add all of my files that I've changed for my commit. I will have Copilot write me a nice, beautiful commit message that can do better than me. And I will then do either sync changes, or sometimes I just hit this and it does the same, publishes same way. And now that's up there. Let's see what Mona tells us from our step here if we've done everything correctly. So looks like things are good. It understood that we made our changes to our settings.py that we needed to make for the cores, and adding our hosts and things like that. And it sees that we created this populate DB that's for test data as well. And now we're ready to go on to the real cool part to show the backend REST API framework. This is not exhaustive of an API. You could obviously iterate over this with agent mode for a while to get what you want. One thing I want to highlight here is you will be replacing anything you see that's replaced with code space name. And you can get that code space name either at the top here, you could get it. Or if you worry about copy and paste issues on the URL, you could just do echo code space and get what you needed right from here to copy and paste. So I'm going to leave that there for myself. And then I'm going to copy this command here. And then we're going to get to running it, which is going to be cool, running the actual Django server. So I'll come here. I will copy and paste the code space name. I'm going to replace this in 2 places, here and here. And so now it has my ubiquitous capybara, whatever the name is that is, and some unique identifier at the end of it. And I'm going to tell agent mode to now, I'm going to clean up some of this just so like they're closed. So what this should do for us is update the views with that URL. Obviously, you probably don't want to hard code that, but for this example, we are doing that. But you could have, I'll show you in a review how it actually cleans that up for us. Again, like I said, in agent mode or in edit mode, whichever of those that you use, but obviously we're focused on agent mode. You can keep these. You could see what was changed first, and there's our code space name there. We could go down here to see what else was changed. We could accept it all, 1 or none, depending on what we want to do. And I'm going to say keep, and I'm also going to say keep for this file as well. I'm going to close those files too. Again, agent mode is jumping the gun on us, and it wants us to run the server, which you could totally run it that way. This command would succeed, but we want a little bit more control and debug, and we're using this in our VS Code environment. So let's do that instead. And as you can see in the directions, you'll see this, which I just showed earlier, this little screen here. So we'll go to that run and debug, and we'll hit the play button here. But before we do that, I want to just specify that make sure these ports are both public. it's automatically set up in the code space that way, but I have seen it not work all the time. So make sure those are public. If you do want to change those to public, you just go to port, right click port visibility and select public. I just wanted to note that before we jump ahead. So now I'm going to hit play. You could just close this window. And it looks like it's running our server. And then I can open up our browser, hit continue. Oh, so it looks like it's missing something here. And what I might do is I'm going to copy and paste this. And I think this is an issue with URLs. So I'm going to say, this is the error I got back. Can you fix URLs? And I'll add that to it. Also, just I know this gets in the way of your files. You can actually pull this up here, and I usually put that up there so it's out of my way. Let's see. And let's see if this worked for us. Boom. So obviously I pasted the error in there. I gave it a little bit more context by using the URLs, but it got there. And now I have these nice URLs with my code space name. And now here's the data that we set up in the database. And this was the sample data actually that I had in my file to set up different, unique names, usernames for folks. And then also here's the two teams. So I set up a gold and blue team. That's after my daughter in middle school, they have gold and blue. So that's where I got that from, just for a little background on that. And then here's your activities here that we set up. So we have CrossFit, cycling, running, strength, swimming, some of the duration of those activities that were done. And you can keep going back to the API route. You can post data here too. I don't believe that with what we put in there, we have implemented a post and put. So that may be additional homework for afterwards. But here's also a list of the workouts that we have. So here we have our backend working, our Django backend working. We're able to get API and pull from the database. So we've made it a lot of the way there already. So now that we've done that, we can actually add these files as well. So I will commit these. That would be the next step here would be committing and pushing like we've done before. So I will commit, I will add those files and stage them, and I will add my commit message thanks to Copilot again, and I will sync. And then we should see us hopefully go to the next exercise. And again, it found that we edited these files. It checked for basically for our code space suffix to be in those files, and that's how it grades us there, just as a little background for you. And now we're on to step 5, where we're going to actually create the front end, and this will take a little bit of time. So I will come back to I'll close that. I'm going to have my Copilot terminal open, and now I'll close this as well. And now I'm going to tell Copilot, but before I do that, this will install all of the framework that we want for React. So this will set up our React framework. Obviously, it's duplicating some making directory, but it doesn't matter since it's a -p there. And yes, I'm going to install the framework and all of its requirements. And you can see that if you were to look over here, you would see in the front end that this is being created now. If I do a refresh, there's probably more there, or will be showing shortly. So we've completed the back end. That's all working. We have a REST API, which allows our front end to talk to the API. As you can see, our node modules are being added. This is all looking good. So we've completed installing that. We'll see though. We might have to install some subsequent pieces as well. I believe the React, the Bootstrap, and then the React router DOM. A lot of this too is based on the prompting that I've kind of iterated over to get to the results that I want. I would say prompt engineering is key to this. We do want to keep that because we need the Bootstrap CSS file. So we're good right now with what we have. It's not ready to run yet, and that's okay because we want to make some changes and add our components, which are the different, just like we have the tables and the backend API points, we need this as well. Again, please note that we need to give the code space name here. So I will copy this and show you how to do that again. Oops. And yeah, let me I'll go to where I had my code space in the terminal, the command that I ran. You could also ask agent mode to run that for you as well. And now I'm just going to exit out of this. Are we good on? Thanks for the time. Sorry about that. And so I've added my code space name in here, and then I have my API endpoint information. I'll close this. This takes a little bit longer because it has to create all these JavaScript files from scratch. It does have references in this Mona High School Fitness Tracker Markdown file. It has a lot of this detail here. It's creating our files for us. We can kind of peek ahead too if you want. We did the replace, and this is where we're going to run the Django app. I'm going to keep all of these files as is right now. As you see, it replaced and put in where it's getting the API using that endpoint that we already looked at in the browser. So I'll keep that, keep all the files. That's fine. Let me close these though, so they're out of my way. And yeah. So now we should have what we need to at least have a skeleton of the front end of our app. So what we can do here is we're already running the Django backend. We're running our database, but now we want to run the React front end. So I'll hit play here. And hopefully, boom. So already, let's check it. Oh, so we have some issues. Interesting. Let's close this. I guess they're all going to give us errors, and that's okay. Let's look at our file. That's fine. But we can say, what I'll do is I'm going to copy this error here. Uncaught runtime errors. I'm going to say React front end Octofit tracker app. So it looks like it's going to look at our app.js file for us and read through that. And obviously all the components as well. We're almost there. So let's try this. Let's try restarting. I should say stopping. So I'll switch here and say stopping. I'll execute this command. It's not in that directory. Let me try rerunning this. I'm going to say I am still getting the error is the index.js and I should say are all the components accessing the API correctly? Which it looks like it should, based on what I'm reading here. The issue persists. Maybe I will try that command. I'll go to the OctoFit front end. I'm going to I'll cancel that. Let's try what it first said to us and do this command here. Nope, I did not fix that. I'm going to, all right, let's try.
Ari, just FYI, you muted your mic.
Hopefully you can hear me now. Sorry, hopefully I wasn't muted for very long.
All good. We can hear you now.
Okay, great. So let's see if let's relaunch this again. There we go. Oh, maybe almost. Interesting. So it seems that it fixed activities. That's fine. Activities is working, but none of the other components. I know we have about 5 minutes left, so I don't think it's related to the backend API since that's working. But let me go take a look at our components. API. So let's see if we can edit this in our file and see if this works for us. Let's try that. Boom. So that was the reason. So now I'll just say, apply this to teams, users, and workouts as well. All right, let's take another look. I'm not sure why Teams is not returning data, but we did get our other data back from the database, so we're able to show that. I wonder if Teams is just, but for the sake of time, I think we're in a good state now that we have the application working. We could keep iterating on this too and add more structure of tables to the data if we want. So we could do something like that. And while that's processing, I'll load up the Teams. I would also say you can continue on with this exercise as well afterwards and complete it. Really, the last piece of this is to do a pull request. This was building the app itself. So we were successful in doing that, which is great. Agent mode obviously helped us. Most of the prompts worked, but we did have to ask some questions or get to the root or paste errors in as needed. So let's keep all of these files as they finish up. And now let's do a refresh and see what we get. And now it's a lot neater, right? We had, seems like it did it for some of them, not all of them. So that's other subsequent things that we could follow up with of like, why didn't do that? Now I'm going to be happy with what the progress that I've made. So again, I'm going to stage these files. I'm going to have Copilot give me a message, and then I'm going to sync. And then we should see that we've completed that step. And really, we kind of completed the bulk of what's in the application. The final step here is really to do a pull request with the changes you've made. You can also add Copilot as a reviewer, and I use it often to review my code, and we did pass that. We did make our edits, and it had the proper content, and now we're ready to go on. So we're kind of at the end of things. I know we're at the end of time as well. So I think it's a good stopping point. But as you read through this, if you're on this step, you can then set up a pull request by just coming up here and going to your open up a new tab for your code. And then you could do a pull request here. You can use the pull request summaries from Copilot, and I'm going to add it a reviewer. That would take a moment to generate. But otherwise, this is pretty much what we wanted to build, and we did it in about an hour. Obviously, a lot of talking and highlighting things, but if you were doing it on your own and playing around with it, it probably would be much faster. We can create that pull request. I recommend using this too, if you have access to it, to see the recommendations that Copilot comes back with. And when all said and done, you can merge that pull request and you're good to go. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. And really, that's what I wanted to cover. And thank you for your time. I hope it was useful to you folks. Maybe I will share just the slides that we have up, just in case you needed to go to this for the training affirmation. So make sure you click that link. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback. Please go to our skills.github.com. Enjoy taking our skills. We're adding new ones all the time. We have a bunch of great people in GitHub adding them. And I think it's pretty cool how they're very self-service and step-by-step and activity by activity. You can go through each one of them and get a nice confirmation that you completed all the steps. So thank you for your time, everyone.